The photo that you're looking at came from a video visit from Mike Parsons on December the 21st, the year 2018, from Grady County, Oklahoma jail. The amount of red tape that we had to go through to set this up, and then the miracle of God that it actually happened, I could spend hours discussing. But for those that may not know, there is a website called Justice for Justin. It's the number 4, Justice, the number 4, Justin.org. He was a 20-year-old young man who was in a federal prison system being transferred to California, I believe, and they found him hanged in his isolation cell. The family does not believe it. He was about to get out, and it was for marijuana charges. There was no reason for Justin to commit suicide. And yet, when Mike Parsons goes to the same jail where he's not even allowed to have shoelaces, he finds a rope-like thing that looks like it's cut out of somebody's orange overalls, and it's in his isolation cell, almost implying like the guards are saying, why don't you just hang yourself like Justin did, and we don't have to worry about you anymore. But Mike reported this contraband rope to the guards, and they didn't even take it away from him. They don't care. It's like they're almost implying, just go ahead and hang yourself like Justin did, and we'll be done with you. But Mike's not going to do that. He's a fighter, and I wanted you to see this photo. Now, my wife and I'll also do another introduction, and then after this introduction, which is about 2 minutes, you're going to actually see the video visit from Mike Parsons. It's a long video, but we don't shorten things up to make things popular or pleasant. I mean, the man's about to spend 8 years in prison. We can spend an hour of our life listening to his story. So here's our introduction, and then here's Mike.
Good morning, everyone. It's 10:24 Central Standard Time here in Dallas, Texas. It's Friday, December the 21st, 2018. We received a home wave call from Mike Parsons. He's in Oklahoma, and we were very fortunate with Rudy's dogmatic persistence to get this home wave video for you today. I think it's really important. I think Mike covers all the important points. You can see he's a humble man that's a pilot that ran for office and won, and his vote was stolen from him. He was shot at, and he built his own house, and he's been targeted by the deep state for exposing government corruption, and that's the definition of a political prisoner, and he's locked away here in the United States of America. It's a disgrace what our justice system has become. I'm very disappointed. This isn't the country I thought I grew up in, and he's going to tell you all about it in this upcoming video. Of course, we didn't get what we paid for, which is typical in the prison industrial complex. The Kennel, read that by Dr. Kent Hovind. Pen name was Elijah Green, written from the inside, from a dog's perspective. They're trying to kill Mike Parsons right now, and he'll tell you about that as well.
Also, before we get to the video where Mike Parsons, we actually got him a video visit from Oklahoma, as my wife says. They've got his wife in prison. She had to turn herself into an Alabama prison, and they entrapped her. It was a complete farce, and it's just a travesty of justice what they've done to both Mike Parsons and Mike Parsons' wife. But given that Mike Parsons will likely transfer to a federal facility within the next few days, to get a video visit from him is very rare, and it's a blessing from God. And so I pray that you listen very carefully to what Mike has to say. I pray that you listen to this man. I pray that you take the time to write him a letter as well as his wife a letter, and let them know they have not been abandoned and that you care about them. Here's Mike Parsons from Grady County, Oklahoma. Keep in mind, this is the same jail where Justin Thau was found hanged to death, and they said it was a suicide, but his family does not believe that, and they're suing to get the videos, and the jail is refusing to let the videos go. But here's Mike Parsons from Grady County Jail in Oklahoma.
I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Can you see me?
Yes, I can see you. Can you see me?
No, I can't see you. I can hear you though. Oh, mercy. What's going on?
Hold on. Okay, we got about 42 minutes, Mike, and I'm kind of thinking I do have some information to relay from your wife. I do have some information to relay to Bradley, but rather than waste this video doing that, because I don't think it's absolutely critical right now, I'm able to record this, Mike, and so if you want to tell your story from the beginning to the end about what they did to your wife, how they gave you a false felony charge, this may be a great opportunity to do that. I wish you could see me. I don't know why you cannot.
I don't know. Go ahead and give me the quick information that you got regarding Mrs. Parsons, if you would.
Okay, I got to look it up. Give me just a second. When we run out of time, that's going to be it, though. But let me look it up. Hold on.
Yeah.
Let's see. Okay, I said, is the property tax taken care of this year? She said, all bills are handled. I said, is the life insurance premiums paid up? She said, all bills are handled, but the terms for both of us expires in 2 years. I do not know what to do after that if we are not out before then. I said, do you want Mike to activate his FedEx pension and send it to you? She said, he can hold off on any action here for now. I am used to doing without and being hungry. I said, Mike mentioned something about a 6-page form which had to deal with a petition for exoneration, but I could not find any such legal form. Do you think, does that ring a bell, and do you think it is on the hard drive that you sent? She said, there may be something on the drive, but I would not know where. It seems that all may have been handwritten, but I did scan some. I thought it was for state level though. And then she goes on to write, they have plans that can be activated from Cali, but I would not know what those are from his end, or if you would want to handle an account. I know Cleet cannot keep this up, and I will be receiving half of what she was sending to me, but that is okay. I told her not to send me anything anyway when I first came here. She has blessed me anyway. God love her. I know that I do. God bless and walk sacred. And then I cannot put Bradley on your website account without you. They're going to require us doing that conference speaker thing again.
Okay. What is Colleen? You said the word something about Colleen.
Yeah, let me read that again. Okay, hold on. She said they have plans that can be activated from Cali, Callee. I have no idea what that means.
I don't know who has plans.
Let me see. I'm saying something about the phone calls. I'm telling her about the phone calls cost $4 every 15 minutes, so she's probably referring to some sort of phone plans activated from callee. Maybe I'm the callee, or she's the callee. I think she's talking about phone plans, but I don't quite get it. I'd have to get clarification.
You guys should use the video time to tell your case, Mike. You can talk about this on the telephone anytime.
No, you do what you want to, Mike. This is your time, but when the time runs out, we care about you, and
it's like this. I've been incarcerated for 2 years. I've hurt no one. All I'm doing is trying to help a Native American nation get on their feet financially so they can get their children back that are being put into a child trafficking pedophile ring in Canada. Once they have the money so that Canada can no longer say that they are dependent and neglected children, then they get their kids back. Well, apparently nobody in this country cares about that other than me. So therefore I sit here and rot in a prison. I'm basically starved, beaten, and every time, this is a routine. Starting back when we bought our farm and the SOB to the north of us shot at my wife and shot and killed my dog Shadow. I report it to the police. Nothing is done. I sue the guy, and the judge, who's a buddy of his, dismisses the case. I appeal it, and they rubber stamp. So nothing is done. Then they come and open our gate a year later, let 3 of our wolves out, wolf hybrids and wolves that we raise that have been our pets for many years. And they shoot and kill one that we found. One came back and the other did not. The guy attacks me in front of the sheriff's deputies after he admits that he shot and killed my wolf hybrid for no reason. I'm charged and sent to jail. I'm charged with aggravated assault for defending myself when the guy attacks me because I punch him in the nose. I threw one punch and broke the guy's nose. Well, he runs into me with a four-wheeler. That's okay. He attacks me and kills my dog. That's okay. Well, the grand jury dismissed that. They came back with a not true bill. And by law, they're supposed to expunge that record, eliminate it from the record, and never use it against me ever. Well, no, they're using it against me every time they find a reason to falsely charge me. So here's their technique. They provoke you, and at the point that you respond, then they charge you with what's done to you. So it doesn't matter if you defend yourself or not. You're going to be charged and end up in a jail and your life destroyed because all they've got to do is get 12 of their buddies to sit there and say you're guilty regardless of the facts. The facts don't matter. It's like in this last kangaroo court, this Luciferian cult, whatever you call the guy, sitting on a bench practicing Roman Catholic type of pagan sorcery. It's canon law is what they call it, where they have presumptions of guilt. And if you're brought into this administrative tribunal, the presumption is you're guilty. So there is no due process. The Constitution doesn't exist. I asked this goofy attorney that they appointed that he would not answer a single question. He doesn't do any preparation. He comes into the trial with an empty folder. He comes into sentencing with an empty folder, no preparation, and has, all of his efforts are put into making sure that his hair is managed properly, that he looks to be his best, so that he makes a good face shot, so that he can tell people, well, I'm a former prosecutor, blah, blah, blah. His whole career is about prosecuting people. So he's working for the system. It doesn't matter the fact that, number one, I'm not even in the state for 2.5 months with no access to any airplane. They searched the plane the day they arrested me, no doubt. They arrested me with an 8-man FBI SWAT team, claiming I was a fugitive, claiming I was armed and dangerous. So they took the building apart, little bitty building, it wasn't big, but they took the ceiling tiles out. They took the commode up. They took everything apart looking for guns. Do we really believe that when they walked up there and saw the airplane that said Chilcote Nation with the door unlocked with a heater on it, they're not going to search it? Come on. Common sense says, yeah, they searched the plane. As a matter of fact, there were photographs taken that I got later on. Now, there's discovery that I never got. And then at the sentencing hearing, in the pre-sentence report, the U.S. attorney admitted, well, no, we believe that Mr. Parsons had absolutely no knowledge about the kidnapping plot. Okay, the search warrant was obtained via a 302 and an affidavit from this Monty R. Zapluski, special agent for the FBI out of Grand Island, Nebraska, claiming that he had evidence that I was part of a plot to kidnap a judge. And for the basis of the search warrant being based on me being involved in a plot to kidnap a judge, turns out that was a lie. And the U.S. attorney knew it from the very beginning, but yet he allowed it to go forward. There's no way that I can know what happens to this plane after I'm gone. Obviously, they searched the plane the day I was arrested. Had there been a rifle in there, they would have found it day one. Are we to believe that they are so incompetent that they can't search a Piper Cherokee 140, which is about 3.5 foot wide and about 6 foot long on the inside with 4 seats and about a foot space behind the back seat, where they had a photograph of where they say the rifle was located? All you got to do is walk to the side of the plane and look in the side window, and you can see directly down into that back compartment. There's no way that anybody, let alone not searching, but looking in the window, wouldn't have been able to see it sitting there. Everything they're doing is a lie to perpetrate a false charge in order to destroy my life, because I don't know what their underlying reason is other than I exposed the fact that they're a corporation posing as government, they're a fraud, and without our consent, they have no jurisdiction. The fact is that I sued a judge and a district attorney in Tennessee that were corrupted back in 2009. And this is part of the old boy system in Tipton County that apparently one of the sheriff's deputies, Donna Turner, a former FBI agent, was the one that contacted the Memphis FBI and said, hey, we got a fugitive from justice, armed and dangerous, all this other nonsense. Well, in the Tipton County's own jail record, it clearly shows, number one, I'm a minister. Number two, I'm not an escape risk. Number three, I'm nonviolent. All that stuff was known, but they sent out an 8-man FBI SWAT team. Also, they utilized cell phone data to locate me. Now, number one, if I'm trying to hide, obviously I'm not, because I not only had a cell phone, I had 2 cell phones that I was using. They could have just called me. I spent the day before helping the airport president move his equipment from town back to the airport, the snowplow, because he was shorthanded. So if I was trying to hide, would I be helping law enforcement and government officials do their work? No, I wouldn't. Point is that I had no court order, no directive, no agreement, no contract to appear in that court. Under the charge that they charged me with, it requires that you were directed to appear. Well, on the indictment it says that I failed to appear as required in order to be at trial. Well, as required is not the law. It's as directed, and they couldn't put that in there because there was never a directive. I asked all of the people, all of the state's witnesses, did you have a order for me to appear? And they said no. I said, was there a directive? No. Was there an agreement? No. Well, wait a minute. How did I get out of jail when I was arrested? They require you to sign a release form saying you're going to come back. Well, Mr. Parsons, you never signed that. I said, but you let me out anyway. Yeah. That's because they thought I was fixing to die, because I was starved to death and I had 3 broken ribs. And they didn't want the lawsuit of them being responsible for my death for somebody who's done nothing other than call for help when needed and being prosecuted and, whole life destroyed because they don't want to do their job when it concerns their criminal friends and buddies.
Hey,
Go ahead.
Hey, Mike, no, thank you. And for those who are just coming into this and learning about you and learning about your case, what happened to you and your wife, and I want you to cover a little bit what you know about how they set up your wife, but can you tell us how you got on the radar? You said you were running for public office, and you believe you were winning the election. You even had a screenshot from the television the night before, and then you believe they flipped the vote totals. Do you believe that's how you originally got on their radars, because you sued them because they rigged an election?
Well, it was a fact. I won the election. Now, I mean, a belief is something you can't prove. Well, I have proof of it. Other than I had 3 people that were there at the Election Commission office witnessing the tabulation, but also the night of the election in 2006, Channel 5 News on their crawler beneath the movie that was playing listed me as a candidate for county executive and my opponent, and said I had 4,282 votes, or 79% of the vote in early returns, and that they had effectively declared me the winner early on. At midnight, I got calls from people telling me, congratulations, you won the election, you got over 10,000 votes. And then the next day, the radio said, well, no, the guy that I ran against, the incumbent, had been there 20 years doing nothing, that he had won with over 10,000 votes. So I tried to verify this through several people that said, Mike, they flipped the votes. You had 10,000 votes. I challenged the election. I sued to avoid the election and simply subpoenaed the smart cards and tabulating machines. That would have proven beyond any doubt if they had flipped the votes. And the judge refused. The judge, who was on the ballot himself, refused to recuse himself. He dismissed the case, and so I appealed. And while I'm under the appeal in 2007, they sent one of their minions to shoot at me and my wife. And he told the, here again, Chief Donna Turner, that under a report in the newspaper, they said that he shot into the uninhabited wooded area across the street. Well, my farm is not uninhabited. He knows that. And um, the, um,
Well,
didn't care anything about that. He shot it. I witnessed him shooting at my wife and my pet Rottweiler Brandy, and then at me as shots were flying to her as she's running to me. And I told the guy to stop shooting, put his gun down, that he's under citizen's arrest. Now, I talked to a guy yesterday that was there in the CCA prison in Nevada with the Bundys for some time, and we talked for a while, and he said that, he told me about them having attorneys and how they argue their cases. But what I gathered was what made the difference in that case is they had hundreds of people outside the jail or outside the prison and outside the courtroom daily protesters out there every day. That's what America didn't see, is that the support these people had, their fellow man standing up for them, because they knew, the government knew and the media knew, exposing all these people pissed off about their fellow man's life being destroyed, being locked up in a cage for exercising their God-given right to provide for themselves. In this case, they were feeding cows out in the middle of nowhere. In my case, I've got a right to be on my wolves and my wife. I've got a right to report crime. I've got a right to defend myself. I've got a right to run for elective office. All these rights inherent through, the Declaration of Independence recognize a right comes from God, not from man, and it's spelled out in the Constitution. The right to bear arms shall not be infringed. Well, they come up with this stupid 1968 Gun Act saying, well, we can't take their guns, but we'll say if they're interfering with interstate commerce, then we'll take their guns. Well, wait a minute. Just because a weapon is built, manufactured in one state and sold in another state is not interfering with interstate commerce. That's the stupidest thing I've ever heard. But that's what they're saying, and they get the people on the jury that are totally ignorant. And you're not allowed to explain this to them. They're not going to let you read the law, but under Article 1, Section 8 of the Constitution of the United States, Congress has the power to regulate commerce between the states and foreign nations, between the states and Indian tribes, not between the people. It gave Congress no authority to regulate commerce between the people. And me, as a live man on my own, I have the right to have property. So even if I had a rifle, that's not regulated by a commerce clause of the Constitution.
Mike, I think that's very powerful what you just said, and let me share this with you too. We're getting down to the last 11 minutes. As I was looking up Grady County Jail in Oklahoma, I learned about Justin Thau, and last year in that same jail that you're in, he was found, they said that he committed suicide by hanging, but I'm going to be talking with his family. I believe they are suing that jail because they believe that that jail is not releasing all the videos, and they think that he did not commit suicide. So be very careful in the Grady County Jail in Oklahoma. There's a lot of suspicious activity.
Interestingly, they've got something that looks like a notice in my room here. And they assaulted me yesterday. I'm in a hole by myself. I went from a what looked like an annex type unit to the hole because they didn't give me a tray, and I said, "Hey, I need a tray." And they twisted them all behind my back and put the cuffs on me tight. I've got to get off the phone here for a minute while they do their meds, so I'm going to have to hop off now. God bless.
God bless you, Mike. There's so much we need to talk about.
Parsons.org. If you go to Parsons.org, it explains what's going on. But I'm sure their interest is in exterminating me because I'm one of those people exposing their crimes. And without the public rising up, they'll get away with it. So that's the whole key. The Bundys won because they had public outcry. Without public outcry, I lose. Everyone loses. Take a stand and we'll win. If you don't, we won't. It's that simple.
Amen.
Clint Eastwood says, if things look bad, you got to get mean. Plumb, mad dog mean. Because in the end, if you give up, you neither live nor win. That's just the way it is. So watch the movie Josie Wells, and you'll see what we're up against. It's time to take a stand. God bless. Bye for now.
God bless, Mike. me because I'm paying for two-way video, but I guess we'll just have to deal with it. I really apologize for about that. I allowed my camera, and it does work in the test.
Well, let me finish up with explaining what happened to my wife. I just sent you a 1-minute message about that. You should get it, hopefully, but I'll reiterate that basically the FBI was posing as a fugitive recovery company that was, in fact, a licensed, bonded, legitimate company on the internet.
Hey, Mike, I'm so sorry. Mike, I had problems with the audio. Can you please start again? And I'm going to put my microphone on mute so I get good audio. I'm so sorry about that.
No problem. Let me know when you're ready. Say, go ahead.
All right, go ahead in 2 seconds.
All right. 3, 2, 1. Okay. The FBI posed as a fugitive recovery company and contacted Mrs. Parsons and said that they had a lawful court order for my release that they had received from the Chilcote Nations Court, which is an international court. And they said it was a lawful court order for my release and they needed some money. And she laughed and said, well, I don't have any money. I'm unable to help you. And they said, well, we were told you had some old farm vehicles, and if we can get one of those, that would help cover the cost of getting your husband transported up to the Chilcote Nation. So they went out to the farm and they took one of our old farm vehicles, and then they called her downtown in Memphis and said, well, we're charging you with solicitation to conspiracy to solicit to kidnap a judge, a sheriff, and break your husband out of jail. And here's the thing, if you agree to plead guilty, you can go home right now. No bond required, nothing at all, and you won't have to go back to court for about 6 months. And the judge might just give you probation, and if the judge sentences you to prison time, you'll have a couple of months to prepare so that you can get your affairs in order. But if you do not agree to plead guilty right now, we're going to lock you up right now, no bond available, and knowing that they knew that my wife and I live on a farm. We've got almost 200 animals that are my wife and I are responsible for feeding and caring for daily. We're it. And she couldn't handle that. She knew that this meant the death of all of our animals, which is our family. So she was extorted into pleading guilty to something she was not guilty of. And she was told by her attorney that she couldn't say anything to anybody over a recorded call. In other words, you can't say anything to your husband who's locked up in the Tipton County, Tennessee jail right now being starved. And so I didn't know anything about this until the day after she was forced to go to court and plead guilty. Once I found out, I immediately said, you need to withdraw your plea, immediately withdraw your plea. And she didn't have the ability to do that because this lawyer that she hired, this bar card attorney whose loyalty is to the London Lawyers Guild, the American Communist Party, they're totally anti-American. He prevented her from withdrawing her plea, and he refused to acknowledge to the court that her husband, being an ambassador of another country, and under Title 18, Section 1201A, United States Code, look it up, 1201A, in Title 18, United States Code 1201A. Please read that. It's illegal for anybody, and that includes this corporation posed against government, to arrest, detain, in any way kidnap a foreign official. And the definition is found in, I think it refers you to Title 18, 1116, but a government official starting off as ambassadors, and it also includes their family, and it says irrespective of recognition by the United States. So any government official of any foreign country, irrespective of recognition by the United States, is protected against being arrested, detained, prosecuted in any way, shape, or form. Well, they're just ignoring the Chilcote Nation, which has been there for over 1,000 years. As a matter of fact, King George back in 1763 made a royal proclamation recognizing the people of the Chilcote Nation in this territory. They were to be left alone, that none of his subjects, including the people in the colonies in these lower areas that he claimed as his, could go up there and mess with them. You couldn't run up there and hide. You couldn't try to buy the land. You couldn't do anything. If there was any, treaties to be had or relations to be had or any attempts to buy any of the land. It was to be his purview only to engage with these people and no one else. So he recognized the sovereign Chilcotin nation before the United States was the United States. Well, then they had the Revolutionary War, and in the 1800s, again, Canada recognized the Chilcotin nation, and then you had the Chilcotin Nation versus British Columbia in 2014 Canada Supreme Court case, or Supreme Court of Canada, and it clearly articulates not any specific entity, but the Chilcotin Nation is a sovereign First Nation. And throughout the indigenous peoples all across Canada, they all recognize the hereditary system as the governing authority. So the hereditary chiefs in the Chilcotin Nation are the power base. And in the Chilcotin Nation, the Chilcotin National Congress is the body of hereditary chiefs. Stanley Stump Sr. is the hereditary Grand Chief of the Chilcotin Nation. He's the one that adopted me into the Chilcotin Nation as a full tribal member. He's the one that appointed me along with the Chief Justice via the Constitution of the Chilcotin Nation and the Chilcotin Nation Court Act. They appointed me as an associate justice to help them with their courts. And then when they discovered my experience as a former manager of Federal Express, doing contract negotiations, having run many small businesses, currently running small businesses, and having taught professional small business at Southwest College for years in Tennessee, they thought, this would be an excellent ambassador for us to help us develop our natural resources, which I suggested to them as the solution to getting their children back. It's a known fact that the Canadian government has been trafficking in their children. They take their child because the families are dependent and neglected in their eyes. They make less than $12,000 a year. Well, the Chilcotin Nation survives and has for generations, over 1,000 years, because they hunt, they fish, and they provide what they need. They're agrarian society. They don't go to Walmart. They go outside and they gather up enough salmon to last them more than a year in 1 week's time. They'll go hunt and they'll take a moose or caribou or deer or whatever, and they will put all this stuff up, and it lasts. This is food, and they, of course, grow food. They have all types of things that they subsist on, so they don't need a lot of money, and they don't have extravagant, expenses, so they don't need a lot of money. But irregardless, Canada is basically meddle their way into these people's lives so they can kidnap their children. They put the child in with a foster family that usually turns out to be a pedophile. They give the pedophile foster family $50,000 a year, and then the province gets $250,000 per year. So in one province, or in one area of the Chilcotin, one community that's got about 1,500 people there, over 300 of their children have been kidnapped. Well, that equates to $750 million annually into the general budget for the British Columbia government. So they're balancing the books of the government off the backs of the Chilcotin natives, and especially their children, who, well, like one child that, my case, that we referenced, this young child that was in the foster system, she had wanted to learn about Christ, and so the foster family, being atheists, wanted to put her on drugs to prevent her from wanting to know about Christ and being denied to read the Bible. And then she ran away because of abuse, and so they locked her in basically a dog kennel. And then reports of sexual abuse were ignored by the province, the RCMP, Royal Canadian Mounted Police, and the entire system is broken. It's that way in this country. They're doing the same thing. Where I just came from in Oklahoma, in Nebraska, they had a case called the Franklin Cover-Up. And there were books written about it, but you won't find them in the Douglas County Jail because they make sure nobody knows about the Franklin cover-up. That's where high-level elected officials, we're talking about senators, United States senators and congressmen, governors, and such, would go by their Boys Town, where they had boys and girls, and they would select their victim for the night. And you heard about the Lolita Express with Bill Clinton and all his excavations.
Hey, Mike, I just got to share with you real quick. The Franklin cover-up, I have tried to mail that book to several prisoners. Every single time, without exception, they reject the book and they never let it get into the prison system.
They don't want the American people to know that these terrorists are Luciferian pedophiles, and they're trafficking in the souls of men and destroying the innocence of America by stealing these children. I apologize. I look like hell. I probably have aged 20 years in the last 2.5 years that I've been starved repeatedly.
Hey, Mike. Hey, I'm just grateful you're still alive and maintaining your fighting spirit and maintaining your sanity. I do want to share some things with you real quick, and I'll make it very quick. We're down to the last 9.5 minutes. I love the movie. Yes, go ahead. Go ahead. I do have some things. I do have some things.
Do you see this?
Yes, I see it.
This is what I found in my room hanging. Does this look like you can make a nice little noose out of it?
Mike, let me share some things with you real quick. So Justin Thau was 20-year-old Asian man. He was in the federal system, and he was found hung in his isolated cell. Let me read this. During the transfer to California, Justin was held overnight in Oklahoma jail, Grady County, the same jail you're in. On the morning of November the 16th, 2017, it was reported that Justin was found unconscious on the floor of his cell with a towel around his neck. The jail claimed that he tried to kill himself while in solitary confinement. As the family demands answers, the accounts of Justin's death become less consistent and even more unclear. They have demanded the videotapes, and the jail has refused to provide them. The last thing he was reported to say to the jailer when they came and got him before he died was, "Please help me." Let me also say that there are those arguing that what we do on the outside as far as to try to advocate for you, make a lot of noise and speak out against the corruption, that it's making things worse for you and your wife, and they want us to shut up. But I'm telling them, we will never shut up as long as you want us to speak up. We have some people on Facebook that say that every time we advocate for prisoners, that they take away more of your privileges and they put you in a harsher spot in the prison. And so they say that we're actually hurting you guys.
They're false. Yes, they might put us in a harsher, but without light shined on us, we're dead. How do you think the Bundys got out? The Bundys got out because of exposure, because they had hundreds of people protesting. Those people are ignorant. Shining light is what cleanses the disease. You have to expose the disease to the bright light and basically eliminate it from hiding. Those people are either ignorant or they're complicit. So
Amen. Amen. I love your fighting spirit. I love your fighting. Yep.
Native Americans in a teepee sitting outside the jail beating the drum daily prior to that trial. Those jurors walking in there would have seen that and said, "What's that about?" Well, that's about the Native American ambassador that you're fixing to be asked to prosecute and send to prison for effectively the rest of his life, because they're accusing him of exercising the Second Amendment right to bear arms to defend himself. And so are you going to be anti-American and anti-Constitution and destroy this man's life, or are you going to say not guilty, let him go?
No, amen. Every time I speak, Mike, I got to take the microphone off mute and put it back on mute in order to have good audio. So if you hear a delay, that's what's going on. I need to also tell you that for anybody listening, you're a very humble man. You were a pilot. You built your own freaking house. I know less than 3 people in my whole life that's built their own house. You ran a farm, and you ran for public office. So you're a very humble man, but you're a very accomplished man. You had a lot of character witnesses that spoke up for you before this nightmare began. And I pray that people do speak up and write to their. What do you think people should do? Write the governor for a pardon? What would you recommend people do that want to help?
The shotgun blast approach is best. In my book, you're going to reach out to the governor, number one, because he can pardon me for the current charge that's bogus from 2009. And if that charge is eliminated, I'm released immediately, because this is based on having a prior felony conviction prior to the incident. That was the only charge, and I've already put in for a pardon. Of course, you said that they've misplaced it. How convenient. But the fact is, I mailed the governor this information from the last CCA prison I was in 2 days ago. Now, I've also mailed you a copy of everything that I sent to the governor, and I've mailed you a lot of things, basically to Attaché Bradley Warren and care of Rudy Davis so that you will get it and you can forward it to him. But this information needs to go viral to everyone. It needs to go to Matthew Whitaker is the Attorney General. Matthew Whitaker can do an investigation into this corrupted system which is destroying our lives, and he can put a stop to it. I don't think that he's deep state operative corrupt like the rest of them, like Sessions was. Sessions was just too afraid of his own shadow. But Donald Trump can put a stop to this. He can obviously pardon us, but we don't need a pardon. We need exoneration because we're innocent. A pardon is basically saying, okay, you did something wrong, but we're going to overlook that. Well, we did nothing wrong. We've done nothing wrong. My wife is sitting in a federal prison for basically being forced into pleading guilty to something she had nothing to do with to protect our animals so that they would not die.
Mike, we just entered the last 4 minutes and 45 seconds. My wife has a question. Did you get the 1-minute video message that I sent to you earlier? I just want to make sure that does work.
No, I've seen nothing you sent me.
Okay, I did send you a 1-minute video message. Okay, go ahead. Aaron.
Okay, guilty plea is not an admission of...
A plea deal.
A plea deal is not admission of guilt, and I want everybody to know that. The other thing is, I want to know if that cord that you just held up, please hold it up again. I want to know if that's something standard that you find in prison, because I know you guys don't even have shoelaces in there.
No, this is what you call contraband. And I told the officer, I said, hey, they've got something, I don't want them to think that it's mine. It looks like it could be made into a noose or something, and it's not mine, and y'all need to do something with it. And they've never came and got it. When they had me go locked down so they could do the meds, I showed it to them, and they're walking by now. I'm showing it to them. They're sitting there looking at it. I'm holding it up.
Don't even have
Hold on,
shoelaces.
I got to take you off mute.
You guys don't even have shoelaces in there, do you?
No.
Okay. Well, thank you. Thank you.
I'm very concerned, but I know the Lord will be with you, Mike, and we often pray for you, and we pray that God uses this situation, what they intended for evil, God will use for good. And like you said, we have to get mad dog mad at these reprobates and these just hellhounds that are targeting innocent people all over our country.
You know, there's a term called righteous indignation. If people would demonstrate a little bit of that and contact the guy, Mike Pompeo, that's over the State Department and his staff, and say, hey, you got a guy here who's an actual ambassador of another country. It's a small country, and your own law says that irrespective of recognition by the United States, we've read the statute, you can't hold the guy. And under the Vienna Convention the Vienna Convention that the United States is a signatory to, I think it's under 39, it says that upon notification to the state, not recognition of, but notification to the state, I'm recognized as an ambassador and I have immunity. Well, on the 19th of January of 2017, notification was effective because the United States State Department issued a recognition of my A1 visa application confirmed. I've got a confirmation number that I've sent to you and everybody else. And if you will post, if you haven't, and reiterate, I sent you a copy of the brief explaining why Mrs. Parsons' charges are false. Sent that to the court. I haven't got a response back yet. But if people read through that, it takes it's a couple of pages, but it explains how they never had jurisdiction over me or my wife. My immunity transfers to my family, and my wife being framed by the FBI, this is an entrapment framing 101. It's a crime that they're doing. They're doing this to people all over the country. They're trying to do it to Trump and his family, and obviously they're a well-oiled machine. They have a book that they go by. They accuse you, and then when you respond, they charge you, and there you go. So you have to stand up. You have to shine the light on this in masses. Go to your church and talk about this. Get your people involved, because America's being destroyed right now in front of you. Your family has no future unless you want to be a slave and suck up to this corporation posing as government. If you don't care about the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, shut up and sit down and lay down and enjoy the chains that sit lightly across your shoulders, as I think it was Samuel Adams once said. Because we care not for your arms or your counsel. You know, you were never one of us. If you live in having freedom, speak out. If you like liberty, if you like to be able to be an American, stand with me.
Mike, we admire your fighting spirit, and maintain your sanity, and know that there are those who care. I know you may not see them, but there are those out here who understand what's happening to you. We understand the nature of the evil, and I pray that God uses your situation to get glory and to get you and your wife out of that hellhole prison that you're in. And if let us know, and we'll stay in touch.
Right. One of the things that they hate most, you see this gold ring on my finger that's been there for over 33 years? They hate that with a passion, because this is a symbol of my commitment to my wife and my God, and they hate that. They want everybody to be manipulated and controlled, and I don't submit, I don't control, I don't extort, and I don't back down, and that's what they fear. They fear a people who will not be enslaved, who will not submit to their tyranny, and who will fight. And though I haven't thrown any punches at these people,
All right, that was Mike Parsons that cut him off. I'm down to 0 minutes.
Can you explain that plea deal thing I was saying?
Well, we're still going if you want to come over here. I think my wife was saying that a plea deal is not an admission of guilt, that many times the full force of the American government, including the DOJ, the Bureau of Prisons, and the FBI, is put upon a defendant, and you can get false confessions. There's movies, entire movies and documentaries about people that not only confess, but they take plea deals so they don't spend 10 to 20 years in prison.
Their family's not threatened.
So their families are not threatened. They threaten their families. We've seen that happen time and time again. Now, you and I would like to believe that we would not compromise and we would not take a plea deal and we would not plead guilty. But when they threaten your family, when they threaten your wife, you don't know what you're going to do. And so we know how evil the people in these prisons are. We know how evil the law enforcement agents have become. And what's happened to Mike Parsons and Pat Parsons is an atrocity. I pray that you look him up on yearofjubilee.com. Jubilee is spelled with one E. Find his address. We're going to try to keep that updated. And I pray that you mail him a letter. It would not surprise me all throughout the month of December and January that they do diesel therapy to Mike. But thanks for listening. Bye-bye.